in case they forgot, from a Paragon Warrior and Q&A. So questions to be asked, you can go ahead and type them out in the Warrior chat, and I'm happy to answer them all. So I don't really know how these have been run in the past. I don't have like any kind of, I guess, presentation or anything set out, but I can talk about Warrior or anything as much as people want. Cool. Yeah, I could just kind of go through how to effectively use abilities and everything. So, Warrior, I haven't really stopped playing Warrior since I started playing 3 years ago. It's kind of been, I've learned quite a bit about it, which is, I guess, why I'm a Paragon, to be fair. Essentially, from level 1 on, your job is to draw attention, I guess. And there's a lot of different ways to play Warrior. Like, I didn't have armor for a long, long time. When I went on, started with no armor, I kind of went for as I formed this idea of Warrior as a support rather than as just an outright tank, because it can be used on anything that you're holding. So I've often gone around and just grab a kill, grab a teammate's broken weapon or broken shield and a piece of equipment like that, and scavenge that for them. You can do a lot to draw aggro with your insult. You can draw people away from the rest of your team. Even going into True Grit, which is after you die, you can still hold a lot of attention on you, even if it's only for a little bit, just to shatter, to come over to you and shatter you. But your teammates can pick up on that and really kind of there. Warriors, both in and outside of a living state, can affect uh, your job is, the way that people think of Warrior is as the tank. You're supposed to get in there, make sure you're counting your armor correctly, obviously, and scavenge your armor back when you get a kill. Keep people occupied. Keep other armored occupied if you can. That's kind of your best place to be. We've got when to use ancestral armor in here, so generally, I try to use my ancestral armor. I use it on the first round to test things out, like my first before dying the first time. So my ancestral armor, and if there's a lot of spell balls, it's always a good time to use it. So archers on the other team, those are the main things to use ancestral armor for. Even if it's just other bow users other than archer, um, also don't go through. So you'll count instead of going down when you hit 3. Whenever there's a lot of bow users or a lot of spell ball users on the enemy team, would be a good time to use your ancestral armor. And generally, when you're using your ancestral armor, you don't want to use a shield because it kind of defeats the whole purpose. You have 2 sticks, you're going to have a lot better chance at, rather than taking an engulfing effect to a large surface area. And how to practice counting armor? The best way is to do it, really. But if you don't have, grab an enchantment from a teammate, as how I started counting armor. That was the first armor I wore, was magic armor. Best way to count it is to grab an enchantment from, a druid or somebody near you, a magic armor enchantment. Track of it, because if you can keep track of the armor that you're not even wearing, physically, or to once you're wearing real physical armor, to keep track of what's on you. a couple people typing, so I'm just gonna let them. How much armor should you wear is really, really subjective. Armor. I've heard warrior called the pay to win class, and it's. I mean, with the next question, especially why that's not extremely true. But armor you should wear is really up to you. You should know how your armor works, but my sweet spot personally is 3 to 5 points. I normally tend to 4 to 5. Um, it's there's a lot of armors that hit that margin, give you a lot more flexibility. Not that good, well-fitting plate should also be flexible to you. It should fit to your body. Armors that are in the 4 to 5 point range generally just to them as a whole. I have brigandine armor that I normally wear, and the space between the plates allows for just enough movement that I don't feel like I'm constricted or stiff ever. My personal choice. There are people who wear full plate and they feel great about it, and that's great. Not necessarily my thing. And if I had full plate, I'd probably go for it sometimes because that extra point is sometimes just what you need to push you over the edge. How much armor you should wear is really up to you. You should get really good at whatever you're comfortable with for the most part. And then Glit asked, what are the most affordable armors? Really, the most affordable way to get armor is to somehow make it yourself or somebody that you know. But the most affordable armors would probably be you could buy a chain shirt on Amazon for $50. It's not extremely high quality or anything, but it'll get you. It's um like LARP armor websites that sell you armor for not too high of a price for the right quality. I know that Vanguard's in the chat. I know that he pieces of armor that he's bought, I believe from Dark Knight Armory, that are they're really nice. Um, the chain that you can buy from Amazon isn't super good. You're gonna have to reinforce it, but that would be the cheapest way to get your hands on a solid 4 points, and then also learn how to do chainmail tooling. It's you kind of learning a skill for it too. Not the highest quality armor. It's not the best necessarily, especially because it's kind of cheap, mostly ill-fitting because you didn't get to try it on or anything, and you got it from Amazon. How you'd reinforce it? I personally don't have this chainmail. I've got a large number of friends who use this chainmail. It doesn't shred in a day necessarily. It's like a definite exaggeration. It's not super good. Essentially, by going back through where the chains have popped your own rings, because generally the rings that you can get yourself in individual packs are going to be better, and you're going to know what you're doing than a mass-produced armor set. You've decided when to use True Grit. So I try my best to use True Grit. True Grit, nice. I try my best to use True Grit when there's shatter me out of it, just because I can just die outright from it. Um, use it when I'm closer to the enemy's objective or to their base, so that I can draw more attention for people waiting for me to come out of it or to be released or something like that. I definitely avoid it when it would just be count by 30 seconds, because sometimes out there or at a certain point, count back in from your 30-second frozen timer, you may just die right away. True Grit, it's especially when you use it correctly. Things I know it's kind of dumb to say, but best used when you kind of take the whole situation, everything going on around you, if your teammates are going to be able to push up to where you are, or if they're not going to fall back from where you are by the time of 30 seconds, or if you're using your shake it off, which generally, unless it's not charged, you should be using with your true grit. Timer can really make a difference if you get out of true grit and you still have some armor left, possibly uh, in 10 seconds instead of 30. You might be able to make a much bigger difference if you're in a life pool game, when you're nearing the end of your life pool, because it'll kind of add an extra 2 on, because instead of dying you go frozen. And what are your opinions on shark mail? Hold on a second. I'm pretty sure I know what that is, but I don't want to answer the question without just looking at it real quick. Yeah. um, I mean, I think it's a good way to get really light armor, and hands on it, it's great. You know, the negative modifiers that you could get from shark mail are yourself, between would I rather have a couple, like one or two less armor points, the ability to move, and the ability to move, or extra armor points with a little bit heavier mail. And mail, I can't give a complete, like, perfect opinion on this, and I can't give a perfect opinion on anything. A lot of people are going to tell you about any class is going to be subjective to how they play. But I personally like carrying around the extra weight. It reminds me that there's armor. It reminds me what my count is, things like that, and it reminds me to take it easy sometimes too. I think things that a lot of people don't think about with armor is the psychological effect that it's going to have on you carrying it. And if you're wearing a lot of armor, you're more likely to stop and rest sometimes. And in those moments of rest, one, you're going to think about what's going on around you more. And two, you're going to think about your own health and if you need to go get some water before you keep going. But I stop and think about water a lot more when I'm wearing armor than when I'm not.
All right, so Blackjack, you're want to know how best way to figure out how to count your armor and everything.
What?
Hold on, Mike. Can you guys hear me? No?
You're cutting out a little bit.
Hold on one. That is that better or worse?
No, that's good. You're good now.
All right. So, Blackjack. Oh, is that? Because you people were asking about what's a great way just to counting armor and when's a good time to do true grit. And people were asked on how's everybody doing? Hold on.
Personally,
So
I would say, oh, okay, sorry. Personally, the best targets for insult, in my opinion, first of all, healers. Love targeting healers with insult, because somebody or resurrect somebody and you insult them in the middle of it, they can, because they can't target anybody other than you. even if that's a good thing, they can't target somebody.
It's
They're
also it's also good to like for insult to do against a healer, like say before they rest somebody, because then you can take them out right. Like we said, we take them out right then and there.
yeah. So, um,
Same thing. Sorry.
I generally go to insult people, or use my insult on. I feel weird saying go to insult people, but
Yeah.
my insult on generally people who are targets for the rest of my team. So healers who keep the pressure up for the other team.
Exactly. Yeah. It's not just like a, touristy looking fanny pack,
Yeah. So you know how to use paper.
Anyway,
You're hungry?
That Asgard. It's the same.
Oh, okay.
Same group.
How much money are we sending them?
One.
Yes, I could do it.
Okay.
Hey Horizon, your mic's on.
Yeah, they did.
You want to just message it to me?
Sure. That'll be awesome. That'll be awesome.
Sam, down.
You're unmuted.
Oh, oops. Ignore us. I'll mute.
yeah, people who are generally causing a problem for my team, and whether that's undoing all the work that we've done to put in to kill their team and resurrecting them, putting too much pressure on other members of our team by casting spells at them or just attacking them and going towards them when Mark and Anwin, I oftentimes play on the same team as Raylan, Chris. Generally, in those games, what I try to do is if somebody's rushing at him, that's the person you should insult. It's not going to work. They're immune to command, but other people who want to rush your your backline casters and things like that are the people that you want to get your insult onto, so that at least for those 30 seconds they can't do anything else. And javelins, I depends on the game. I try to carry 2. There's lots of different ways to make javelins. What I normally do is I'll make I have flies pretty fast and a heavier javelin that doesn't fly quite as fast, but it hits a little bit harder. And with these javelins is I'll use the larger one, the heavier one, as a way to kind of in a little bit and to test someone's reflexes against it and how to see how they're going to do blocking and things like that. And with the lighter one, a feel for the heavier one and the speed that it moves, they're more likely to be a bit more surprised speed of the lighter one. So it'll often kind of make it into a gap where the larger one wouldn't have. It's really useful for enemy shield users and things like that, because if somebody's wielding a shield, they're going to be more likely to bat away the kind of larger, slower, heavier javelin that I have. Or one, which is has almost the profile of an arrow, but with a javelin shaft at the head as an arrow, so it'll make it kind of into the gaps with their shield. I decide if I'm going to harden my weapon or my shield kind of the same way that I decide when I'm going to use ancestral armor. If there's a lot of that will break a shield, arrows, breaking crushing weapons, a druid who can give bear strength, things like that, harden my shield just so that I can keep it on. I harden my weapons if there's a lot of bow users, whether they're archers or not. A normal arrow isn't going to break a shield. Have scavenge in case it does get broken by something else, like an errant destruction arrow or a crushing breaking weapon or something like that. But if there's a higher amount of bow users, I'm really not looking to get my weapon broken in that situation. No, destruction arrow doesn't break a hardened shield. No. The only thing that will is a fireball or obviously a sphere. If someone's swinging siege, but that's more of a quest specific ability. But a sphere will go through and break a hardened shield. Well, destroy a hardened shield, and a fireball will do the same. But destruction arrow, no, they will break a non-hardened shield, but not a hardened one.
Wait, did you just say that spears break hardened shields?
Sphere of annihilation. Sorry.
No.
Sphere of annihilation and fireball are two of the hardened shield. My sword and board is kind of my bread and butter, especially because I go with a lighter armored build. After this summer, I'm looking to get some more armor to cover all of my limbs and plan to switch out to Florentine just so that I can like take better advantage of my ancestral armor. Because if I'm carrying a shield, I'm more likely to be hit by an engulfing effect. And if I'm not, I can just normally move my swords out of the way, the engulfing effect onto my armor, and just take a point instead. Classes. And this could be an answer to a lot of things, is with a friend. To get around a lot of different things is to have a battle buddy. Soloing a magic class, first I check to see if they're ambulant, like all game. If they're a battle mage or anything, it's going to be a lot harder. Cardio is one of the big ways to get through it, because if they are casting ambulant, to either outrun them away or chase them down and outrun them that way. You're not casting ambulant, your best way to handle a magic class is to run them down and try to kill them before they can finish the spell or get them to move their feet. That's why I carry javelins too, is if you toss it at their feet while they're casting, move. If they don't, pull your sword out and run at them right as soon as you throw the javelin. Protect sword shots, but I'm more likely to be able to move a sword out of the way of an engulfing effect than I am to move a whole shield. More likely to, even by accident, catch an engulfing effect on your shield than you are to hit it with your sword. I guess the goal to maintain the tank role as a warrior is, for one, make sure you're using your scavenge effectively. Points of armor, but after it's down to all zeros, you're just going to be carrying weight, and that's it. But if you're using your scavenge effectively, you should be able to maintain armor as long as you're getting enough kills to do so. But you're counting your armor correctly is a good one. At the times that it's needed. So if your backline's being pressured by somebody, if their front line is just getting a little too close for comfort to someone else on your team, you can, with look the part, insult two people on you, and chances are, if you're drawing enough attention from two people, you're going to be drawing attention from more. I've had games where I've gone and drawn attention from 5 or 6 people, and I'm not going to fight or outfight 5 or 6 people. I'm pulling that attention away from the rest of my team, so they can either move on the objective or move on the backs of the people who are fighting me. Everybody, you just have to either survive or pull attention long enough to win. In my opinion, I would say it's like a total a team deathmatch where you have to wipe out the other team's life pool. Um, then yes, but in more objective based games and things like that, pool isn't limited or it's less limited and you need to capture the flag or something to win. Survival is more important because the longer you're up, draw attention for your team to get somewhere. Getting kills, it's a plus. It's always a plus when you kill an enemy because that's the only way that you can activate your scavenge. Survival is really what it comes down to. It's why you wear this much armor in the first place. That's why you get the most armor and the largest shields. Keep taking shots and to stay alive. I think defensive and offensive can be incredibly subjective based on who you are and like how you're playing. Generally, just because they have the big shields, they have all this armor, likelihood of staying up the longest. So they should be on the front line and protecting the people damage, but will go down faster, like a unarmored wizard or something like that. You can play defensively. It's totally doable. It's the same way some people prefer to play like a resbot healer over a midline support healer. Personal preference. A lot of people will play warrior where they'll put their 6 points of plate on, and they'll just sit on top of the objective and wait for the enemy to come to them. And I think that's valid. Not my personal way to play warrior. And I think that you can do with warrior that you can't take advantage of in a completely like a defensive only play style. I think your insult is kind of going to waste. Take it off is less likely to come into play. Towards the front line, you're going to be able to use all of your abilities for sure, where you don't have that guarantee. Anybody else have any questions or anything? I'm sorry about like long pauses and stuff. I've only been a Paragon for like 2 weeks. Super well versed in Paragon. How many apprentices do I plan on taking? Not something I've thought a ton about. It definitely depends on, who I see play warrior. And I'm not going to be the kind of person who says, oh, you have to ask me if you really want to get it. But I'm not going to know if somebody wants to be an apprentice of mine unless they ask it. So I plan on taking apprentices, of course. How many they are and how I'll be training them is really at least up to anybody who wants to be an apprentice of mine. I want to see them fight. I want to see them play. I want to see them use all of their abilities. The training will be, did you use each of your abilities at least once? Because I think that it's very important to know, use all your abilities once. How come? Like, because there can always be a good reason that an ability might not get used in a game. You might never be, so you don't have to use Shake It Off for that. Or you might never be in the best position to use your insult, although you know, but sometimes you won't be, and that's just how it works. There can be good reasons to not use all of your abilities, but you should at least know why you're not using them. Glit says, "What are warriors good at in a team?" Like I said before, warriors are made to be away from the rest of the team. If your goal should be, how many of their front line can I peel toward me instead of the rest of my team? A little bit to the side, stay within range of your team, obviously, but if you can peel off a little to the side and take people with you, then I think you're doing your job, really. Insult a couple people so they can't aggress anybody else. Fight hard enough and use your abilities well enough that the other members of the team take notice and they prioritize you. Because the more people are on you, the less are on, the rest of the front line or your backline casters, things like that. So more can get done. 6 versus 1 kind of showdown. Tenebrion asks, "What do you do that you feel is different from a typical warrior, if anything?" I don't wear leg armor, and I really should. I don't wear a lot of armor super often. I genuinely, personally, don't have the money for it. I wear borrowed armor a lot, or like 1 point. But once I have, money, I will be able to wear, enough armor, comfortable in it. But what I do generally that is different from a typical warrior is sprint around the battlefield. I like to be everywhere, and it might not be even the best play style, but I like to be is putting pressure on every single point of the battle and team into a position so that they can also put the pressure that their class allows. So if I see of not necessarily unfair, but like a 2-on-1 fight that's in favor of the other team, that and make it 2-on-2 instead, and possibly push an advantage there. Or if I see a fight that we already have an advantage in, maybe I'll go over and clean up and try to get those people who are stuck on one member of the other team away from that so that they can move on to another area of the battle. To move fast. And you might be able to tell because I am talking really fast, and I do know that. I apologize. To move fast. I like to kind of be everywhere at once, if possible. I don't know if that's necessarily completely different from other people because it's to you, but from your typical archetypal warrior. Helmets. I do have a helmet. It doesn't fit my head, so like most of my armor, I don't really have a helmet. It's a good way to bump, chain from 4 to 5 or brigandine from 5 to 6. It's necessarily, I think that they're good to have. Doesn't do you any better than, taking a golem from a druid. Its drawbacks, but the imbue armor will give you +1 to all of your armor instead of just your chest. I think if you have a helmet that you like to wear and it fits you well, then you should absolutely go for it, but I don't think adds such an advantage that it's necessarily worth wearing all the time. And to kind of compound on, just so that I can fill some silence, to compound on why I say that druid has, or not druid, golem from a druid has its drawbacks is the cursed state. As a warrior, a lot of your abilities are spirit, and you won't be affected by them. Use your scavenge, but you won't be able to true grit or shake it off, which bread and butter for a warrior. I think that you're not going to need those things if you take a golem. I still take golem pretty often. it's not necessarily, you know, the best choice all the time. What are your plans moving forward in your capacity as a Paragon? My main plan is to keep my eyes open. I'm gonna be watching that are fighting around me. I'm gonna make sure that I see them and I'm paying attention and I'm watching exactly how they play. Because I'm not gonna be handing out apprenticeships like candy or anything, but I will be paying attention and I will know deserves. That sounds kind of like it's like some big award or anything that I feel could benefit from an apprenticeship from me. So my biggest plan is make Paragonhood more accessible. Not necessarily like, oh, hand it out to everyone who's good at their class, but everyone who's a Paragon should be a Paragon. Redundant maybe, but there are some people that I've seen for a while who they're not Paragons yet, and my plan moving forward and to either offer the assistance that they need or to make sure that their name is known. Practical applications of different types and sizes of shields. So as far as types, I'm assuming you mean like a medium punch shield most of the time. It does well for me. It might not for everybody else. It's a very unique shape as well. Practical applications, as far as that goes, a punch you're going to want to use when you want to distance from your enemy. That's what I use it for. You can hold a punch out further from your body and close distance faster to get in for a shot than you can with a strap because you can't really move very far away from your body without moving the rest of your body with it. I think a strap allows for a more defensive fighting style generally. Because it's so close to your body, you're going to close off a lot of the shots on side, and if you're left-handed, then on your right side, on your shield side. But you're going to close yourself off to a lot of enemy shots there. Strap and second weapon. Yeah, I think unique fighting style was the small strap on the shoulder. But as a warrior, I think you may on instead of a small strap strapped to your arm, you can it's protected by ancestral armor if you're using that, which effects you should be using. But using armor instead of a small strap there up on your arm, you're not going to be taking engulfing effects. You'll be taking a point of armor instead. To shield crushing or armor breaking with ancestral. Arm mounted small and flow. Yeah, that's really cool. And I can see that working, or at least being like really cool. And it's definitely beneficial to classes that aren't warriors necessarily. I think that we're that way. But because we can get up to 6 points of armor, putting a plate bracer is going to do you a lot better, I think, in my opinion, than a mounted small. And I think, again, like it's really good for other classes, and it could be useful for warriors as well. I just think that it's not as armor. Yeah, punch for intercepting, engulfing, spell balls, that too. Yeah, the shield drop is it's the reason that I carry a punch shield really, is to engulfing spell balls or engulfing arrow effects, and I can just pick it back up. Whereas a strap, you're gonna have a lot more trouble kind of slipping your arm out of it in time. Struggle against as a warrior. I think the biggest problem for warriors, personally, would be levels. They carry less spell balls, so you're gonna have less defense there. You don't really get any just from your base class. So a lot of their spells, like you have to be like quick enough to get in and kill them. I did say wizard, yeah. You have to either be quick enough to get in and kill them before they can get their spell off. You have to run away from them so they can't chase you down and stay in range. But struggle that I personally have as a warrior, just because it can be so difficult once they get, battle mage to get in, close the distance, and kill them before they can finish the spell that they're casting. I think until you hit level 6 as a warrior, you might have a little more trouble against other frontline classes, but the ancestral armor really does it for you, especially against barbarians who have that armor breaking on all their swings. Have 5 or 6 points on all your hit locations and ancestral armor, a barbarian seems a lot less threatening suddenly, because you can outtrade them a lot more easily than you could have without ancestral armor. Goes for a lot of frontline classes against warriors as well. Warriors, obviously, that's pretty much an even matchup and comes down to skill or knowing when the best time to use your abilities and things like that is. Frontline classes, barbarian and to a degree, I guess, scout too. For the most part, you outtrade them, so you will, they outskill you, which can always happen. Somebody can outskill you either in class or just in fighting skill level. Unless you're outskilled in the matchup, a warrior is going to come out on top just because of their ancestral and higher armor count. An additional challenge for warrior, like I'd say wizard is the number one threat, but it puts you in a place where you can't really do much. They can lost you, awe you, shove you, agoraphobia, everything. They have a lot of command school spells that can get some sort of immunity to, generally with like Scout's Adaptive Blessing. Barbarians just immune to command have their Enlightened Soul, but is a pretty hard counter to Warrior as well, where it kind of relies on, again, getting in and getting them to move their feet or killing them before they can finish their spell on you, or outrunning them and staying out of their range. I prefer to battle buddy, and it's not only classes, it comes down to the person too, so it can be really subjective. Like personal level battle buddies would be, Frederick and Rayland, a healer and a wizard. That can kind of hold true regardless of if you know the person just on the class. That you can count on for, a release or to CC the enemy while you move in can always be really, really helpful. In turn, you are there for them when they need help, so you can keep them from being rushed in that way. Yeah, personally, those kind of, I guess not squishier, but those less forward caster classes, battle buddies for a warrior, just on their CC ability and their ability to remove you from states if your Shake It Off is down. personally, my favorite battle game is Capture the Flag. Like I said, I like to kind of close gaps, get in there as fast as I can, and get out as fast as I can. Where you just have to make it in once. My favorite game by far. One I have the most fun with, you know. It's one where you can easily find kind of a battle buddy of, you know, go across the field with and Kalinar. I did answer again, but I don't mind, or I did answer it, but I don't mind answering again. Like, that's fine. I choose my targets who I can most clearly affect kind of in the game state. As a warrior, I'll choose a lot of the time. I'll try to take on either their front line, because generally a fully kitted warrior can outtrade classes, or I'll try to take some of the like skirmisher or sidelining supports there, and not necessarily supports, but other classes. Monks will often take a sideline or like side of front line, and it can be really good to go in and kind of disrupt the ranks in that way, because you'll pull a lot of aggro toward yourself before pulling aggression from the rest of your team is the best way to kind of get your team to close in on them. Effective. Kalinar in the voice chat? Because I'm looking at it and now I don't know. I answered that question out loud, but I'm looking. I don't think he's actually in the voice chat. All right, I'll type out what I said. Hold on. It's also true. Yeah, it will be available eventually. If people have other questions, as while I'm typing, this really won't take long. I don't really know how long they've kind of been in the past, so I'm just really flying by the seat of my pants here, I suppose. All right. Right, that's cool. Yeah, I'm sorry. I guess I didn't know how they really went before, so I didn't prepare like a dissertation or a lecture or anything. I was just me questions. There. Okay. All right. I'll see myself out. For management says otherwise. Sorry, Blackjack. Well, that's good. All right. Yeah, I can see how Chris's wouldn't have gone efficiently. You know, he's one of my best friends, so I'm allowed to say it. I sort of covered it. I said it's to how you're comfortable playing and how much armor you're comfortable wearing. Like really cool, but it depends on if you're willing to give up, you know, the you might lose for, you know, the lighter material and the lighter gauge and things like that for the extra mobility that you'll gain from it, or if you'd rather take, you know, more armor points for a little bit less mobility and a little bit more weight. Really cool, and it's wrong for using it. Definitely not. It's a little bit fashion or function, I guess. Um, yeah. I mean, yeah. Again, like personal choice, fashion or function, which is more important. Like you feel best in. If you have armor that looks really, really cool, get as many points for it. Wear what you want to wear. Wear what makes you happy. Stories. Um, get back to you. I'm gonna keep trying to think about those. I play Warrior and Quests. I think a little bit less about my class when I'm playing in quests. Generally, I tend to play more my character than I do. Yeah, honorably, exactly. More about the character that I'm playing than the class that I'm playing. Just think that um it's more important in a quest that you're having fun and you're really kind of in the moment than it is you're playing this class really well. Quest, I think they're less about, you know, like being the best player in the world and more about having fun and completing objectives in the quest and getting into the story. Um, as far as enchantments that I prefer for armor, I mean, a really good way to go because, you know, while you can't use ancestral on your armor, and then your pro flame. Um, I think lycanthropy is a really good one as well. I've always liked taking lycanthropy. Really, which enchantments I prefer are the ones that people give me. A big part of the way that I play falls around kind of, um, yes, uh, adapting to the situation. I guess is the best way to say it. Um, this isn't warrior specific, but I think that everyone should be adaptable while they're playing. If you see a situation going away that you didn't expect, you should be thinking how to either get it back on track to the way that you want it to go or as quick as possible. Uh, my character is named Maelstrom. He's a quarter orc on his mom's side. There is a Viking ship captain. Very Viking influence. And we'll see if I stick with it. That he was a Viking mercenary sent to an area. because I like the aesthetic of that, and I found out that those are a real thing. He's not a male stripper anymore. Kind of retconning that one. That was my like Mad Libs quest idea that I am not planning to stick with super strongly. He used to have an Australian accent. I also kind of hate that now too. So maybe not that either. As far as fighting against and fighting with, half addressed each of these, but to go into more detail, I like fighting against other frontline classes because long drawn out slogging matches like that, generally a warrior can outtrade frontline class other than warrior, just because of the higher armor count. The ancestral. Fighting with, I like to have healer or wizard on my side, and I said this before, to release you from states if your Shake It Off is down, and to CC targets that are in front of you that might be bearing down on you a little too quickly to deal with. Do I like purple? Yes, but I don't wear it. I like maroon. Your favorite soup? Paragon soup, of course. But actually clam chowder. Soup? I think that counts normally. She's sitting behind me. She just told me cereal's a soup, so she can fuck off. Yes, actually. My bad, sorry. So I just figured out how to use the emojis on Discord, so I'm really having a good time with those. Hi, Maelstrom. Funny story. I chose it because I really like the word. Subconsciously, I knew that it was the name of the pirate ship from Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island that they found that the house was built out of, because that's my favorite movie. Not only is Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island my favorite movie, it is also my favorite anime. Several people are typing like that one. I keep banhammering you until you stop. Thanks, Jer. Played a game with only javelins. A silly game, and I didn't end up with only javelins by the end. So I don't know if she invented the game or if she just put it on or kind of like changed it up a little bit. But we played what was essentially the Hunger Games at Field once. You put a bunch of sashes and a bunch of gear into the center of the field. Everyone starts about 15 feet out, and you sprint into the middle and grab Cornucopia. You grab here and you try to go for the things that you know, but yeah, no, you start the game classless, and whatever you pick up, that's the class that you're playing, which was also a part of this game. It was really fun. To run in, and I only grabbed my purple sash and a javelin, so I had to play for about with just a javelin before I made it to pick something else up. I could buy more uses out of an ability without paying armor points. I would buy, or by paying with armor points, I mean, I would buy to Shake It Off. I think that it's so incredibly useful, and I miss it every time I'm not playing Warrior. I hate getting hit by a crowd control effect and not being able to get out of it in 10 seconds. I'm like, damn, I should have played Warrior. Every time I get hit with an engulfing effect and I'm not playing Warrior, so I can't shake it off. Opinion on flails? I think they're really cool. I think this is a lot of they do flail. I think that a lot of people have like really big opinions for flails, and generally, in my opinion, like they're fine. Or they can get over shields and around blocks a lot easier, but a lot for it too, which is the stability of a short sword. Here, I personally don't use great weapons very often. I feel like I can get a lot more done or a sword and shield than I can with a great weapon. A lot of stuff is subjective. It's up to whoever's playing. If you are a person who feels are boneless short swords, thank you. But yeah, if you're a person who feels comfortable using or a great weapon as a warrior, and that's the way you feel you play best, absolutely go for it. Here's the best class for pole weapon usage. Generally, I think that monk can use a pole weapon a lot more effectively than a warrior can. Person, obviously, but because their other hand for more range attacks, throwing weapons and then blocking range attacks, and then can move in and clean up with their pole. I think it's a lot more useful than a warrior in plate, because while you can use a great weapon pretty effectively as a warrior, and I'm not going to push anybody away from using great weapons as a warrior because your fighting style is your own. Just prefer not to. I think I do tend to use a pole weapon a lot more often. It just feels, and the traits you get with a pole weapon for monk than they do with warrior. I built one of my own javelins, and the other one I got from Mirren. Play javelin, but that I built, it needs a little bit of reinforcement. But it's I'm going to tell you the way that I'm going to reinforce it instead of telling you the way that it's 3 fiberglass driveway markers spiral taped together, insulation, like that makes it all the way down, and then I built the head of it as if it were an arrowhead, so like a hunk of noodle, a bad arrowhead, not a good one, pool noodle, and then a couple layers of camp pad and the head of a stress ball. It's my lighter javelin that I have. The heavier one I have unwrapped, so I kind of know what it is. It's a length of, I think, PVC. It might be a little bit bigger than that. PVC, and then it's wrapped with essentially like a long spiraling strip of camp pad is dodgeballs, foam dodgeballs. Yeah, throwing something with a core can feel really weird. I feel a lot less uncomfortable with it when I know that it's padded properly, so it's not gonna, like, even if it turns, it's not gonna hurt anybody. It takes a lot of getting used to, and you definitely have to get used to your own javelins, because I've borrowed from other people as well, and it can be really difficult to kind of switch from your own javelin and the weight of that to what somebody else's feels like in your hand. No problem. Equipment for loadout for a level 1 warrior. So the way that I played warrior for like a year was completely armorless. Medium shield, short sword. Ideally, if you have, you know, you should wear it. Even if it's, 3 or 4 points that you got for another class. Like Liam, I know you personally. Like, I know you have chainmail. Whatever armor you've got, I think a sword and board is the best way to go, but it can be argued with. It's also completely up to your own personal play style. If you're a person who feels more comfortable fighting flow, then go flow. If you're a person who feels more comfortable with a great weapon, play with a great weapon. It's open to a lot of different kind of types, like play styles, play types like that. No matter how you play, you're going to find a way to effectively use your abilities, or no matter what weapon set you use. Do that, I guess. It's an option. Maybe not the best option, but it's an option. Such good suggestions. I'm overwhelmed. It's 2 great swords, 6.2 daggers is the best way to go. It's the scariest thing to do. You get real close to people here while you're hitting them with your daggers because you're that close to them. Don't do that. What does that mean? I mean, you can, it just doesn't do anything. Be the biggest waste of your large shield you could possibly do. Ride it like a snowboard. That's the way to go. Sure. I have two. I have taken naps on the large shield that I used for a while. I don't know if a hardened shield can cross lava, just because it can't take a fireball. On Imbue Shield, that you can serve across lava with. How do you decide what you should enchant with Harden? I addressed this a little bit earlier, but I really don't mind going over it again. It depends on the other team. See how many weapon breaking effects there are versus how many armor breaking, or not armor breaking, sorry, shield crushing effects there are on the other team. So if you see an enemy team with a lot of archers carrying destruction arrows and or people with heavy padded weapons with breaking crushing, or druids to give out bear strength to make their weapons breaking crushing, you would enchant your shield with harden. Otherwise, I'd take a look to see if there's a lot of people with bows or bow users that aren't necessarily archers. In that case, is when I would enchant my weapon instead. By a straight arrow, it doesn't break. What did I say? Oh. Brushing craking, actually. I always do say breaking crushing, though, just because I like things in alphabetical order. Yeah. Yeah, you could do it. Yeah, that would be pretty cool. You could enchant a double-ended pull with Harden. You'd have to be aware that any engulfing effects that you block would go through to hit you. It'd be cool until you got, stopped or something. It would still be kind of cool, but you wouldn't be able to move. Does anybody else have any other questions? That's beautiful. I love that. That's perfect. All right, so other questions? Now might be a pretty good time to wrap it up. How does a Paragon Warrior do an outro? Tip your waitress. I don't know, man. Don't put me on the spot like that. Scavenge, yeah. Scavenge, that's the one. All right. I'm good if everyone else is good. Actual overcome sounds like there's more. Hey, bye. That's good. I'm good. I'm done. Bye.